to another episode of Pacific Matters. My name is Tomas Manglona and I'm reporting from the island of Saipan for today's episode. And on today's episode, we will take a closer look at the history of ice or crystal meth on the island of Saipan and the officers at the border in charge of stopping it. We'll also share some of the latest developments when it comes to military training on the island of Pagan and Tinian and the Northern Islands. And you get to see the letter sent from the Federated States of Micronesia to China regarding the Russian invasion of Ukraine. First, we sit down with the Director of Customs, Jose Mafnas, who's been working in that division since 1998.
Been a director for customs since 98, but I've been employed by the division since 1984. So, my career, customs was my career, and then 2003, I got moved to revenue and tax. It's the same department. And 2013, I got reassigned back to customs as I'm still here. Like I always tell my officers, you gotta be passionate about loving your island. I live in Coblerville. I drive here every morning and I see the oceans and just the beautiful sights coming over. And you gotta be passionate. You gotta love first your island. You want to protect it. So that motivated me to just stay with this. I love what I'm doing. Of course there are challenges. There is a say political how do you say that, issues and what, but I try not to get distracted by those. I just focus on, because Thomas, I've seen the destruction of crystal meth on the islands. When I came back in 2013, crystal meth is all over the island. CNMI, it's over. Price at that time per gram is like what, $50, 75 per gram, and so that kind of just gave me the zeal to fight against this issue. We know that ice just doesn't, or any dangerous drugs or items doesn't fall from the sky. It has to come to the ports of entry. It's either seaport, postal, or airport. And if us customs don't do our part, then of course all of this harmful, drugs or any dangerous threats, the items would flow through. And it's embarrassing. I feel embarrassed when I hear that there's a lot of ice in Saipan or Tinian or Roda, because that's my responsibility to ensure that nothing passes through this road out here. Because everything passes through the ports. Here at Seaport, from toothpicks to Mercedes-Benz, that's our job. And I always emphasize to my cadets that's happening now. So the responsibility of protecting our borders is not the responsibility of the Delta Force or the Navy SEALs or the Special Forces. It's us, CNMI Customs, and Biosecurity now. We're responsible in protecting our borders. Not only on dangerous drugs, but also in agriculture, because I think last year, Governor, through an executive order, merged us with quarantine. And, it's always been, I'm a great supporter of the quarantine division before. And now that it's under my supervision, I would treat it the same as as customs, because I know that invasive species and pests, they come to the ports too. So if we don't take care of that too, it could have a dire effect on the agricultural, industry out here in the CNMI. So, we wear three hats. As a customs officer, we wear three hats: tax collector, border enforcement, and now agricultural enforcement. And all of them are equally important. We're responsible to, handle all of that. So I enjoy what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing. I like the challenges, of course, if there's anything distracting, any distraction, I don't care about that. I just want to make sure that we stay focused with, our responsibilities here at the ports.
In this next segment, we'll take a closer look about how ice or crystal meth became, quote, the drug of choice in the Northern Mariana Islands. After it became an epidemic, they say that they changed protocol quickly. Here's more.
Well, it started in the 90s, when we had this. No, it's tourists, and it was the drug of choice back then, both local and the tourists. So we were able to control that. But then it came back again. When I came back and got reassigned here, 2013, it was, I can say, an epidemic already on the island. And so immediately we did an assessment, a gap analysis on the practices that we do here. It's very important, and find out where's the big gap that this drugs is coming through. And so I found out that back then is that all importers are treated the same, whether you're high risk importer or low risk, you're treated the same. Your container is going to go through. I mean, a lot of it back then were wasting our time. Why don't you do a risk management and focus on the high risk and, random the low risk.
What is the high risk?
High risk, say, the point of origin importers. If we check our history of this importer, if there's violations that they, like undeclared and all those, we consider those are high risk.
So oftentimes it is correct, the assumption is correct, or if they're high risk, then
Yeah.
you do have to find
Well,
something.
after we made those changes and started focusing on the high risk, immediately in the first 6 months, our revenue went up by more than $500,000 immediately, because we were targeting high risk importers. We were in undeclared goods and high tax rate, a lot of cigarettes.
Can you share where they're originating from?
China, the Philippines, those were back then were the main the origin of those undeclared high tax rate goods, and also drugs. It's getting hard to bring in. Of course, the COVID pandemic is probably a blessing in disguise for us customs, because now cargo coming in from China is very hard. Of course, there's still container coming in, but very rare as before. We have like 1 or 2 containers every 15 days or every month. And so we have time to focus on doing 100% inspection and on that of that container. But the diversion now is they're coming in from the U.S. This last bust, it's imported by a Chinese national, was detained now, but it's coming in from the West Coast. So we see a shift here. But again, our partnership with the U.S. Postal Service, we have an MOA with the U.S. Postal Inspectors Service. That helps us a lot. So we have an MOA with them.
What does the MOA allow you to do?
It allows us to to open up our office space at the post office. We do have a unit there. I think it's 6 or officers there. And any time that a package is released by the post office to the addressee, we take over the jurisdiction. We do the inspection, our part, whether tax assessments or inspection. The same thing when it's released to the private postal. Private postal, we can do inspection on all of that. So it gives us that authority to do inspection, and post office is also one of our ports of entry.
Welcome back to this episode of Pacific Matters. We continue our conversation with Customs Director Jose Mofnas, who shares recent trends of intercepting ICE on the island of Rota because of its close proximity to Guam.
We've been intercepting in Rota because it's a short boat ride, and then from Rota, it's brought over here. It's affordable in Guam for the drug users. It's what I was told 2 weeks ago that was about $50 to $75 per gram, and so that's cheap comparing to $400 to $500 over here. So that's my word. But we do have an MOU with Guam Customs. We do work together with them. We share information. But again, the short distance between Guam to Rota is a concern for us because we've been intercepting all those small grams or a small amount coming into cargo by air or by boat.
And these are just personal trips, or are they commercial boat trips too? Are you able to share?
Personal, I guess, boats. So that's the problem that we have. Again, if and again we've been sharing. I've been sharing to Guam on how we do our practice here. Bottom line here is customs practices. That's if you don't change what's not working, then the problem's going to continue.
I want to shift now to talk about the training that you guys are doing. So we've talked about the history, but now you're kind of preparing more cadets. Can you talk to us a little bit about the agreement you have with NMC and what you hope to achieve? First of all, what is the program with the new customs officer cadets, right, that you're training with NMC?
Yeah. This is the first cycle with NMC, but it's the 9th cycle for customs. And serving the way it's been done now, and say, wow, we did grow. We grew from the first cycle where we're just struggling, trying to make it. But every year we progress, and now with the latest partnership with NMC, I'm so happy that now we can, while the officers going through the training, they'll earn their credit hours, 40 credit hours, and at the same time they're receiving their salary, getting paid. So that is a big, we call it a success for us, because we want to produce a quality officers. If we don't have that at the ports of entry, then it's a problem for us. That's why, we want to select the best institution that we have on the island to do the training. And, with NMC, we have good instructors that are scheduled to do the teaching here. So I'm really happy about it. We've been trying, in the past to start this program, but it happened here and now. So I'm so happy with, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Clement Bermudez, who never, always there, coming over, pressing, and at the same time us, Captain Camacho is involved here too, in, getting this, lift off. And so it happened. Now we're in a 3 weeks classes with the cadets that we have down there. The unique part of this cadets is we have four with bachelor's degree already with CJ, and one AA, and then one with computer science. But those that have graduated with their CJ, AA, and bachelor's, they don't stay in the NMC part. They just attend the customs part.
And in our conversations with Customs, they share how they've been working with the Drug Court and Recovery Center in order to help people who are using drugs on island and are seeking help.
in the beginning when the drug court program was established, we were, involved. I guess the pandemic, the COVID, just kind of put a hold on that. But we do work with the drug court and also the Hope Recovery. Again, if this too, does their part, and they are, again, it's the only way to ease up or stop the demand is to, or the supply is to heal the demand, the users. So we've seen a decrease though, in 2013 when we made all of these changes, we intercepted about 30 pounds total for that 2 years, about 28 or 30 pounds of crystal meth. And we had 10 groups, 2 different groups that are now serving time in prison, Chinese nationals. After that, everything just went slow and steady, except for just small amount that's coming in. And this is now the big one that we have. Without mentioning all the equipment that we do have adequate equipment, resources to use at the border. Before, everybody's given, if you're bringing any taxable items, you have 30 days to pay across anybody, even those that don't have an address or a business on the island. They come in, bring in their stuff. I'll avail the 30 days. Then they never showed up. So our receivables balloon. So made some changes, by convincing the legislature to please knock that off and just pay on the spot. And then at the same time, have the importers apply for the 30-day grace period, so we can be able to screen importers. So there's a criteria for the applicant to follow before we approve them. After that, that helped a lot. It just fly by night importers. We don't see them anymore. When they come in, they pay on the spot. That's the law. But it was a controversy in the beginning because I was going through against the Chamber of Commerce, but we sat down, we met, and we explained ourselves, and they turned around, change of heart, and they supported it, and now it's working. It's good. Again, it's only a handful of this, of importers that is really a challenge for us.
How does that work with the high-risk category that you were saying? Is that a separate process from what you're talking about? Because taxes are separate from the actual risk?
It's the same, we again review the historical, the history of the importer that are applying. Yeah. And, everything is recorded in our system. So if we see that this company has been, violating undeclared or underdeclared, or just don't come over to pay their tax, on time or what, so we just disapprove.
So now it's pay on the spot now?
For some. For those that have a D grading or F grading grade, but really working. And then that would help us facilitate the movement of containers for this low-risk importers.
So would you say that the port activity is increasing as the pandemic goes down, would you say? Or not really? You're not seeing that?
Well, it is after the post-pandemic. It's just not really, but it is. It's increasing, but it's little by little, And again, the pandemic helped us to, change our, analyze our program, fix ourselves, see what can we implement to better the services.
We want to thank everyone at Customs for their time and sharing that information. When we come back, we have some regional headlines. First, about the major military training developments in the Northern Islands and on Tinian, as well as the FSM's president's letter to China. NMI leaders are saying hands off Pagan, and they're also saying no to high caliber fire training on the island of Tinian. Here's the latest when it comes to joint military training in the region. The people's power influencing military might, NMI Governor Ralph Torres, Tinian lawmakers, and the Northern Islands Mayor Vicente Santos, backed with over 27,000 public comments, marking a major milestone for joint military training plans. After several key meetings and input as part of the National Environmental Policy Act, the Department of Defense amended its proposal, eliminating any training activities on the island of Pagan, construction of landing ramps in Chulo Beach, a high hazard impact area for the use of artillery and aviation delivered munitions, an extensive range footprint, extensive fencing, and special use airspace. The use of Pagan is now off the table, and there will be no high caliber live fire training on Tinian. The Office of the Governor says that the amendments have an eye towards training for the future with significantly less impact and harm to the environment and culture. Governor Torres says the proposal achieves closer balance to the developments they'd like to see in the Marianas and is aligned with the intent of the crafters of the Covenant Agreement. Tinian Mayor Edwin Aldan says the amendments allow for the cattle industry to grow. Aldan says there will be now greater public access to historical sites and beaches. Local leaders and DoD officials met for 3 days last week to discuss the revised plans. Northern Ireland's Mayor Vicente Santos says he's pleased that Pagan is out, allowing for rest, recreation, and eventual resettlement of its residents. Major General Mark Hashimoto with the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command says that when the people of the Sinai spoke, DoD listened with respect for the land, people, and culture in mind. Before we wrap the show, here's the FSM president's plea to China when it comes to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. President David Panuelo of the Federated States of Micronesia is pleading for peace. In a letter signed and sent to China's President Xi Jinping, Panuelo called for the leader to join the chorus around the world demanding peace and ultimately Russia's withdrawal from Ukraine. As Russia continues its brutal march forward, many military officials have warned of increased tensions in the Indo-Pacific, with another eye on China and its reach in Taiwan, which would have implications for the Pacific Islands if another battle were to erupt. Panuelo wrote in his letter, "The Federated States of Micronesia is committed to peace and recognizes and appreciates that China feels precisely the same way because China fought with diplomacy, not weapons, at the United Nations for our country to become sovereign and internationally recognized among other countries." He added, "We have betrayed people's dreams of peace and the hopes of the young and the vulnerable. We have stopped being our neighbors' keepers and stewards of our common humanity." Panuelo concluded in his letter, "While I worry that the Russians and Americans will not listen to each other, I am convinced that both of them would listen to China. And I also believe that China taking on this leadership role would be in the interests of both the Federated States of Micronesia and the global community of nations." It was just 2 months ago when FSM announced its severing diplomatic ties with the Russian Federation following the unjustified and brutal invasion of Ukraine. The FSM government first established a diplomatic relationship with Russia on March 9, 1999. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pacific Matters. I'm Tomas Maglonia, looking forward to seeing you right here next week.